That was crazy, wasn't it? Insane, crazy stuff. Insane stuff. Let me see if we're working now. Yep, we're working now. All right, cool. Cool, cool, cool. We're working. We had a technical prop out with the opening. That's okay. No big deal. No big deal. We're here. Let me see what we got here. Let me see. Yeah, is what it is. We'll do YouTube. Or not. Little patience with us, please. We're trying to fix some stuff, get it ready. It's pretty should be a rad show if we can get everything working here. Crazy. But if you can wait for other shows, you can wait for us for a second. We're setting up some stuff. I know, I know. Be patient. I know. You're like, what's this guy doing? He's losing his mind. No, we had a whole bunch of double feed and double playback. Wasn't cool. Wasn't cool. So we're setting back up on Rumble real quick. So you guys just need to be patient. If not, no big deal. No big deal. Bam. We're going to open a few more things up, and then we'll get rocking and rolling with this show. At least I think we will. Yep. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Cool. Crazy. Don't you love crazy when it actually, really has something to do with multiple platforms? And it's all good. And we're having a little bit more difficulty. Maybe it's because Step in the Hacienda is on. You never know. You never know. You never know. You never know. Well, screw it. Let's do this. If you're patient, you're patient. If you're not, chats are open. It'll be recorded. You can watch it later. Or if you're smart, you've jumped around and shifted around and looked. So we'll go through, do the edits on the main page, delete the first crash, transition out to this one. So tonight, understanding the lone wolf shooter, period, done, over. Let's bypass all the crap and get to it, because everybody wants to get to it. This is a topic that was a special request topic from a few law enforcement guys. Now, I'm going to, kind of start out with something easy. This, what I'm about to show you, is quite possibly the worst video I have ever seen in my life when it comes to not alert for law enforcement as it applies to the lone wolf, but for crash, for the civilian response to an active shooter, right? This civilian response. Now, I'm not going to show you the whole video, but for those of you that know what this is and you've seen this, I got asked to review this video, so I kind of, watched it a little bit, and it's all great. Everything's fantastic. It's all cool. But right up to the point of, oh my gosh, there's something happening, it just goes straight sour and just goes straight down to the bottom of the food tank of guano for the FBI to put a video out like this. I'm just being 100% honest. I got 30 plus years in this, actually 35 this year. This is the worst video I've ever seen. So please, with all due respect to the FBI, get rid of this garbage. It is crap, total crap. Just get rid of it. And yes, you heard it from this guy, Dr. Mike Gurley. This video is garbage. You don't drop down to the middle of the ground in the middle of a field. Concealment, cover, conceal, cover. You're not trying to camouflage it. It's horrible. Whoever said release this, Cash, if you said release this, Cash Patel, director of the FBI, you screwed the pooch, sir. Bad. This is horrible. Anyway, back to the show. I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. And for those of you that are law enforcement and you've actually watched this show, this, response to an active shooter in the open, no, no. Somebody's going to follow those instructions and do exactly what's on that video and waste time. So, the lone wolf. How does one become the lone wolf? Who becomes a lone wolf actor and distinguishes themselves from the group, or distinguishes themselves based on group-based ideology, rhetoric, edict? We're going to talk about that. Contrary to the popular belief, right? The lone wolf terrorist is not a crazy psychopath. They're not insane. They're not broken. They're not snapped off with a switch, or they're not snapped like a broken twig. They're not a psychopath in the traditional sense, what one thinks would be a crazy person. Research recently and in the past shows the trend toward normalcy. Yes, the trend toward normalcy. Now, I know everybody hears, okay, this guy's always talking about research. Well, it's an academic push. We're not replaying Fox, CNN, and everybody else's crap to you and force feeding it to you. So if that's what you want, go find something else to watch. I'm being 100% honest. Much like the FBI video, didn't cram it down your throat, but I'm telling you, go watch it for yourself. Active shooter, open space, garbage show. That just is what it is. Haven't watched the other ones, but I was asked to watch that one. Now, research. Yes, the individuals operate without direct command from organizations as the lone wolf. We're not talking about group cells. We're not talking about large entities of people under an ideology being swayed or twisted by rhetoric or edict. We're talking about the individual lone person, the lone solo actor, just alone, making themselves particularly different and hard to detect through traditional intelligence methods. Why? It's like smoke. You can't predict it. You don't see it because you're the law enforcement agency and you don't have the intelligence on the individual person, because the individual person, in layman terms, is not just the physical gray man for those that are survivalists and, all that good fancy stuff. The world's going to come to a Kajagoogoo explosion in tonight or tomorrow. The gray man principle, but it doesn't even apply within that. It's the normalcy paradox. Earlier terrorism research assumed that terrorists were mentally ill, like just psychopathy, had mania. And we're talking, pre-GWAT, even during GWAT, research was coming out that, terrorist organizations, sales groups were ill. No, contrary, very articulative, very intelligent, but under the scheme of ability sometimes. I think we're kind of seeing that right now. You can talk all the threat and all the rhetoric you want, but you see what that got Iran. 100 hours, 2,000 plus targets. I mean, it's kind of continuous, but that shows the difference in the lone wolf and in the group normalcy. However, research now recent from 2021 up to 2026 indicates a higher rate of psychological issues as compared to the group of terrorists. Yeah, we're talking about the normal lone terrorist, including the conduct of problems and antisocial behavioral traits. If you paid attention to any of the actual shows, you've watched both episodes of The Narcissist here, the political and the inner community, the one that's close to you. Good evening, Colored by Crayons. And you watch both of those two shows, both of those two live streams and those broadcasts. So, small tendencies, yes. Full scope, no. Age and life pattern apply here toward a lone wolf active shooter. Keep in mind, singularity, not a group. This is not a educational or a discussion about a terrorist cell or a crazy uninterpreted signal out in odd Farsi or Aramaic language that everybody's trying to figure out to activate the cells. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a singular individual that does not need that motivation. The motivation that the groups, the organizations, the wide pretext of countries, shared group across the world. No, the lone actor does not need that. The lone wolf typically radicalizes during a specific life transition. There's a normalcy in life, and then there's a phenomenon or a trauma or an episode in life to where the lone wolf, the single actor, has to encompass rational thought to conform, choose, or not conform, and not choose, and to move forward without making the decision. I know it's confusing. It is very confusing. Identity crisis, one would say. But in older individuals facing significant life disruptions, illnesses, death in the family, real trauma that an adult would comprehend, that a teenager or young teen or child would not, or adolescent would not really comprehend. Now you're talking about the disruptors in adult life. It's not always going to be that ideology, rhetoric, or edict of a specific religion. It can be the simple self-developed ideology of trauma in the life, the disruption that caused a cataclysmic stop in the one life series of one singular individual. Period. Social isolation, job, you got fired, the divorce, I kissed the dog and kicked the wife, now I'm divorced. I know it's comical, country, right? Country music, not my favorite, right? Criminal history indicators. Not always does that lone wolf or that lone active individual have that triple I or that positive hit to law enforcement for a criminal background. Why? There was no reason. There was no reason for a rational choice theory to commit a crime, go out and do something deviant against the moral ought to, moral ought not of society. There was never anything there. So law enforcement is not going to get a signal or a punch or a problem-oriented call from society or an observatory probable cause to really be intrusive or create a investigation or open a jacket for an investigation because there's no trigger for attention. It hasn't happened yet. It's not there. Then the isolation happens when the disruptor happens in the solo active lone wolf's life. The first agency they are not going to reach out to is the law enforcement agency. They're not going to reach out. Social isolation, depression, psychological issues, mania, interpretation, rational choice theory of what has happened that is a disruption and how to interpret it. Now, let's be clinically for academics watching this show, not for the common person or common citizen that is not in the clinicianship of psychology or sociological or CJ sometimes. That's when the sociological breakdown happens, develops into psychological abnormalities, psychosis, mania, the things that trigger irrational choice theory and irrational thought. One is alone. One is that singular in the aspect of the disruption or the trauma. No one in society recognizes them. No one is there to help. And typically, that's true. It doesn't always apply to those that are surrounded by loved one and friends. It's kind of like the principle, count all the friends you really can count on your hand, and you'll notice that those numeric kind of disappear. They crumble. So you're not going to see any type of historical venue that's going to catch the attention of law enforcement or a historical venue that caught the attention of society as a whole to report it to law enforcement for problem-oriented policing, community-oriented policing. It's not going to happen. Social isolation, the virtual connection. The social isolation can turn into a virtual disconnect, or the social isolation can turn into a full virtual connect. The virtual world now, it's the replacement. It's the lone label, one's by themselves. So they're seeking that alternative them, that IT life, that virtual universe, that virtual life to connect with those that have dealt with that trauma, dealt with that disruption. But unfortunately, those that are out there seeking that virtual connection and that virtual communication have not sought or been able to obtain or get or identify out there where is or get true practitioner, mediological, psychological, sociological help. the comprehension level of those that are in the virtual connect of the disruption that would become or be swayed to be lone wolves. That's where one of the problem lies. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind, the crippled aiding the crippled to walk, not downgrading anybody with a disability, but in layman context of comparison. It's eating something sour to get rid of the sour taste. You're magnifying the sour taste that's in your mouth. The isolation. It's not, in layman terms, good for the human being that suffered trauma or, so to say, a disruptive moment, disruption in their life. The maintaining of the virtual connection through the online extremist communities. Yes, extremist communities. Now, when I say extremist communities, it doesn't mean terrorist cells, terrorist groups. Are communities out there for those that are isolated, alone, psychological problems, unable to adapt to society? Of course they are. Do your own research. Discord private servers, apps, 4-way channel, 8-way channel apps, single 2-way channel apps. Heck, even right here. Some of you watch this show for the, I don't know, educational value. Some of you watch this show for the pure entertainment value of, yeah, let's listen to this guy talk about reality and giggle and laugh at it. But it is what it is. The virtual connect is key. The isolation is key and critical. Even though there's isolation involved, compare the past before IT, the virtual world, the Connect, the Dum-Dum Box, all of the apps that keep people connected through linguistic text, linguistic venue without interpretation or physical kinesic interpretation. It's only the interpretation of the words in one's mind. Now think about the one that is reading the words that is in that virtual Connect alley, that has suffered trauma, that has suffered that disruption, and they're seeking communal conversation, interaction, the chat rooms, the social media platforms to validate a grievance, to validate and provide ideological reinforcement. It was taken from me, this disruption in my life. I lost a loved one. I lost my job, the divorce. Well, what happened? Please tell us. Break it down for us. The one that lost something or suffered a disruption. Manipulation. It's the paradox of a tool. It's the paradox of the manipulation of an adult to a child, but the adult is manipulating the adult that went through a disruptive period of trauma. Now it's an easy target. It's the same comparison as the mentally ill. You will find in research that the mentally ill are more subject to victimization in society than the mentally ill commit crime. That's one thing the FBI got right. You sure as heck didn't get that video right. Outdoor. Response to active shooter outdoor. Who gets on the ground and looks at their buddy and has a conversation and nods their head? You just sustained yourself in a baseball field as a big blue target on a green pitch. Thanks. God forbid the shooter be at a, I don't know, elevated position. You've just given them a stationary blue smudge to empty a magazine at. Good job, Cash. Good job, FBI. It's the worst video I've ever seen for training. God, it's horrible. Rationalization. Radicalization process. How does an ordinary person transform into someone willing to commit violence alone, singularly? And we're not talking about, breaking down specific incidences or doing reviews on incidences or lone wolf actors in society. You've got to understand the singular radicalization process. The radicalization process follows identifiable psychological stages. Period. Done. Over. Society's not going to recognize this, unfortunately, because society as a whole is not trained in psychological, psychosis, sociological, social embedment, social interaction. It's just normal day-to-day life, normal grievance, normal resilience, normal fight or flight, normal press the button to get on with the day. And for those that are tuning in, you may see the double because we had issues on the first one. When we're done with this live stream, I'll go delete the first one and we'll just leave this one up as the primary. But we're live on YouTube, X, and Rumble. Yes, the psychological thing that society just does not understand, because why? There's no training within society. Society does not understand what society should or is supposed to be looking at, looking for. Thus, neither does law enforcement. They have no idea because it's not a focal point of training. There is crisis intervention and de-escalation, but there is no recognition process of training. It's a response. Thus, law enforcement serve and protect only when called upon and to serve the prioritization, not you. You don't have a cop in your pocket. So you've got to understand the radicalization. You always hear, keep your head on a swivel. All these fantastic, goofy shows on all these platforms that feed you every other news angle that you could have watched on your own and talk about how they're going to respond, what they're going to do, build up stockpile, all this great kajagoogoo bull crap. The gray man principle, the hidden, the under gray man principle. Well, the one that is really an active, alone lone wolf, you're not going to see it coming because you were not trained or prepared to look for it. Done, over. Now, I know somebody's like, this guy's talking stuff. Does this guy? Yeah, Thus, two terminals. One, clinical psychology with a focus in trauma. I know what I'm looking for. Do you? I'm not an expert at everything, but I know what I'm looking for here in this subject matter. Do your own research, right? Please do your own research on me and figure it out. Everybody is subject to that drop in the moment to become the victim of the lone wolf, even myself and all of you. But this isn't an overnight transformation for the lone wolf. It's a gradual progress. It's a step through specific connections, all right? Cognitive and behavioral changes that are hard to see, sometimes harder to see than signals or trips of someone that is wanting to commit suicide. Harder to see these in radicalization. The two pyramid model. Right? There's a two pyramid model, and I'm going to go into the research over to who. I'll put the actual research out probably this weekend for this. Just something I kind of do every show we prep. But the framework identifies two parallel process, the two pyramid model in research that applies to law enforcement, that law enforcement does use in investigation of lone wolves as of 2023 all the way current to 2026. Radicalization of or on opinion being beliefs, and radicalization on action, meaning behavior. You're all radicalized on opinion. I think, I feel. Yes, the I think, I feel is the sound embedment of still process in your head. It's the you. It's the convinced that you want somebody to believe you. But it's not a scholarly, in-depth, cognitive, researched, backed by set precedent, credibility, reliability, and validity. It's not an opinion. Yours is I think, I believe. Trust me, I've got them too sometimes on, non-scholarly things. But the radicalization of belief, thought, example, religion, government, partisan, nonpartisan, Democrat, Republican, left-wing, right-wing. That's all belief. That's all a radicalization of process of cognitive interpretation of linguistic value given through verbiage by a kinesic physical presenter. It's still an action, but it doesn't invoke or produce actionable behavior under the two pyramid model. The critical danger point occurs when the radical believer of the beliefs combine the means with the opportunity. The means. It's like criminal investigation. All death is homicide. So when you hear these like forensic examiners and these reports come out and the autopsies, it was homicide. Great. You're going to go by a janky, non-historical venue interpretation of homicide, the taking of life by another human being. Great. Yeah, that's death, period. Accidental, suicide, depraved heart, intentional. Where's the intent, the means, the manner? That is what establishes suicide, accidental, natural death, manslaughter, murder with intent, etc. Same thing with a lone shooter, the means, the radical belief with the means to carry it out. You could be a lone wolf, radicalized believer, yes, and still interject ideology, edict, rhetoric of the belief into another to conform to belief and now persuade radical action and behavior. Kind of like the leaders of specific groups. But yet now you have someone that's lone that maybe is not in the perfect health, maybe has a disability. Well, the means to behavior is going to conform to the opinion of, I believe so much, I shall find a way. And the way sometimes is shocking, especially for those that have been through that traumatic moment that are converted to an ideology, a rhetoric, an edict, a belief, something that is convincing, that life-changing experience with another person that I feel your pain. Now let me tell you how to deal with it. Something simple, the attention, the grab, the emotion, the psychological connect, the sociological connect. You would be surprised how many people will push the envelope in that action behavior. It's kind of like being injured, kind of like law enforcement and, military. You're injured and you still carry on. You're hurting so bad, but you still carry on. Are you in the fight one step at a time? Mission first, solve the problem in the moment. The problem is the mission. You're hurt, great. The mission. It's kind of like TECC or TCCC. The mission is first, period, done, over. People would think, oh, well, John got shot. He's bleeding out of the neck or he's got a leg femoral artery. No, mission first. John, can you self-treat? Thank you, self-treat. Use your own IFAC, pull your secondary out from underneath that, sippy. Do your deal. Do your diligence. That is radicalization of belief and enforcement through speech in a positive way. If law enforcement can do it, military can do it, in a TECC, TCCC, combat medic scenario or response crisis intervention or risk assessment, yeah. What do you think a active lone wolf is going to do? I know some of you thought I was going to say active shooter. No, active lone wolf. Active lone wolf doesn't need to be a shooter. Active lone wolf can espionage, IT. What's going to happen when half of you think you're prepared and you're like, oh, I've got it, man. I got that emergency generator. I got all this. And suddenly power drops. Boom, you're gone. Well, I got my generator. I got my backup generator. Fantastic. For how long? All it takes is one cognitive thought from an intelligent person with a relatively great IQ or intelligence level to create chaos without really touching a human being whatsoever. Everybody thinks that lone wolf is a simple shooter with a platform or a ballistic platform. No, it's not. Personal and political grievance is a fusion in this too. A key signature is the merge of personal problems, job loss, relationship failure, mental health struggles. I lost my job. I lost my business. I don't have any illegals to work for me now for low wages. It's the president's fault. No, it's your fault because you hired people that were undocumented and you're aided into vetting paychecks to those that are here illegally in a law that is over 103 years old on the United States docket of word of law. So now you're radicalized because the government, the man, the big dude, the angry orange man helped you lose your job. No. Rational cognitive ability to rationalize the situation, thus irrational thought process, developmental theory based on the trauma, based on the incident. One's not thinking correctly. The critical danger point occurs when the interpretation of what is cognitive, ought to, ought not. What is the real problem that needs to be addressed? Relationship failures, mental health. Now, that one example I gave, fail the relationship, lose the business, already mental health issues there because of psychological domestic violence in the home, not enough money, so now I can't afford to pay people real wages for good performance, so I'm taking the lowest bidder, lowest dollar denominator for employees, and we're not knocking anybody's trade craft or a race, creed, or religion or where anybody's from. We're talking about within a two-tier pyramid model, a personal and political grievance as it could or possibly be triggered, the political or ideological grievance. Ideologically, it's the government's fault. This is a fusion. It creates the narrative where personal suffering becomes attributed to external enemies of the system. The lone wolf system, not the system of the people, but the lone wolf system, all in on their own. The man, where do you think the term the man is oppressing me? The man, that's where it came from. Do your homework, do your research. And it wasn't in the 60s either. It was actually in the, post-World War II. Post-World War II. Post-World War II. Kind of like the last time Congress ever signed a agreement with the president and the Congress agreed, let's go to war. 1942. We're at war. No, you're not. It's a big, giant operation, and it's a behind-the-curtain television. Tell you your vision. The significant quest of the lone wolf. Psychological research shows that many, many, many lone wolves are driven by the need for personal significance, validation of self, resilience, self-worth, pride, dignity, respect. All words that successfully set in a garbage can comfortably together. Yeah, comfortably together. human dignity, life, all of that's gone now. Personal significance. What about me? Kind of like the narcissist. Me. Yeah. Your house caught on fire. Well, my car caught on fire. I don't think I can get it repaired. You have insurance for your house. I didn't have car insurance. What's your bad? Isn't that like a legislative law in the state that you live in? That's your fault, not mine. Go narcissistic crying a barrel of respect, dignity, and all this stuff together. Dignity of life, dignity of choice, dignity of instruction. Sociologically, society's not paying attention to this, and all of you know this, so you're not going to sit here and say, oh, this guy's saying we're all bad in society. No, I'm not saying you're all bad in society. I'm saying society has neglected. Society does not know how to understand the two frameworks and the parallel processes of radicalization, the option of belief and behavior. Two different spectrums. The majority of you in society are already radicalized under belief, opinion, the think, I believe, I feel. You're already there. All you need is the action behavior in some shape, form, or fashion. A positive action, maybe a push to a negative action. Who knows? I can't call it for you. I can't. Even I'm radicalized in that belief or opinion of, if you're going to do it scholarly, have research that is peer-reviewed within a 3-year subsequent standard, or 5-year, not 2-year, or unless it's a specific topic, because there's no time for the preset of peer review to be released for you to adequately put it out there under a methodology of investigation or research. Man, I just made everybody drink from a fire hose, didn't I? Yep. Fantastic. Kind of like now, I'm at a good cognitive belief that a bunch of these systems suck, especially YouTube. Got more problems out of, everybody I talk to has more problems out of YouTube than any other platform. That's why we had to restart the show. Let's go to cognitive closure and rigidity. Yes, rigidity. Individuals with high need for cognitive closure. Yeah, cognitive. Those who prefer quick, definitive answers over complex nuisance. Yeah, that's the big closure and the rigidity. We're more susceptible to a black and white extremist thinking level. All of us are. Give it to me in black and white. Stop beating around the bush. Give it to me straight, Paco. You've heard that before. Tell me the truth. Give it to me now. Stop wasting my time. The psychological trait that makes the lone wolf vulnerable to simplified narratives about enemies and solutions. Yeah. It's the cognitive quick closure, the black and white, the rigidity of it. Shut the door. I don't want to hear the mitigating or exigent circumstances that caused the incident, that caused the trauma, that caused the need for my fusion grievance, my grievance of a personal or political profile nature. I don't want to hear it. I want that cognitive closure, and I want it rigid, and I want it fast, so that I can press on with what I think or believe is right. Remember, there are two forms, the belief, the fusion, and the behavior. It's the fusion of both, the pyramid model. You got to understand how it works. The warning signs, the behavior indicators. Not everybody knows what to look for. Kind of like suicide. People would, think they know what to look for, but sometimes it slips past them like that, ghost in the night that you claim you saw, or that child that hits the light switch and they leave their soul behind them to get to the bed after watching a scary movie. Observation. Observable behavior signals that sometimes move toward that violent action you may not pick up on. Linguistics, verbal, kinesics. A knife is a knife, man. It's the kitchen knife. But once you're talking to someone and suddenly that action or belief comes out and you're having that conversation, and that belief, that trigger, that pyramid model, that framework, that triad, that structure is being questioned. Now the knife that was cutting a nice tomato to make a beautiful sandwich now is in a hand pounding the counter. That's the trigger. People miss it. Law enforcement research for, I don't want to say decades, maybe just this past decade, has identified specific signatures that indicate progressiveness toward lone wolf violence. Now, that's just law enforcement. And let's be honest about this, okay? I'm going to be 100% forthcoming with as much law enforcement, CJ, academic, forensics, investigation, psychological, sociological experience that I have. I've probably got 1 grain of sand of true experience on the beach of the world or the life, along with every other law enforcement officer, every other practicing clinician out there. But law enforcement does not have the greatest resource of true research. We just go watch that FBI video. It makes me want to puke. Kash Patel, director. No, I don't even gonna bother with respect. You endorse that? That is garbage. It's horrible. If you lay down in the baseball field and have a conversation and look at your buddy and wink, nod your head, guys, I'm just making a gist out of that thing, but there's so much crap in that that's just going to get society killed. It's horrible. Now, law enforcement research. Law enforcement agencies do not have that top tier of research, period. Just obviously like the FBI doesn't either. Anybody ever seen the, that's a crash video, but anybody ever seen the alert video with the guys going up the stairs, poking that head around the stairs? Yeah, just get that coconut canoed. Oh, God, horrible. I'm just going to stop there with it. FBI. Yeah, the indicators, violence. While definitely not definitive proof that somebody's going to be that lone wolf with intent, it provides critical intervention need, the points that a family member should notice, a friend, mental health professionals, or something to be given to a mental health professional, security personnel. Yeah, it's arguable. Someone's gone through that traumatic moment, that moment that was disruptive. And you're supposed to be looking for those pyramids. You're supposed to be looking for those key signature grievance fusion methods, the personal and the political. That conversation that started over a nice ham sandwich with a tomato now become viciously violent with a knife in one's hand, beating the table, beating the sandwich to death. Trigger it enough, it becomes a lone wolf with a tool, an incised weapon. I'm not saying it's, one of your family members. I'm saying you've got to be able to spot this. Simple subject topics. Broadcasting with intent. The critical warning signal when an individual communicates their violent intentions to others. Yes, banging your head, talking about a political venue. I hate this person. I think that they should this, that, and the other, and I'm going to do something bad or physically, dastardly to them. Those are triggers, especially for someone that has gone through that traumatic moment and haven't coped with it. They haven't recovered from it. Lack of self-demeanor, lack of self-demeanor. Yeah, how you're supposed to portray yourself. The moral ought to, the moral ought not, the professionalism. It's gone. Out there. Self-resilience, self-worth, fading. You're watching it. The woe is me. Kind of like the narcissist. Some of you know the woe is me. Some of you know it. Chats are open. If you got any comments about it, put it in here. Good or bad. Good or bad. Like I said, we'll go in and we'll shut down the crappy feed that took a dump, and we'll leave this one up. The leakage occurs, the broadcast, the verbiage. Well, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Communications publicly, even strangers hear it. Friends of the strangers of the friends of the strangers hear it. And now they're talking about it. The leakage to society. Various forms, direct threats, verified warnings, dramatic changes in behavior, things put out online. Communication patterns, the change, linguistic choice of words. People miss this. People are taught, look for the suicide, but the majority of people in society look for the suicide triggers. How in the heck do you expect you're going to pick up on the pyramid? How do you expect you're going to pick up on the fusion side of it? How are you going to pick up on the significance of the quest psychologically, the cognitive and the rigidity of a closure, something direct to keep one on path? Yeah, I want it now. I want it rigid. I want it closed now. Things like this happen more frequently than people, identify with. Comprehend it's happening. Look at Austin, Texas. Who would have thought somebody that looked like that? Come on. He didn't have a whole bunch of body armor on and went to his local airsoft store or Army Surplus or Amazon or the internet or watch YouTube channels about, hey, this is your new greatest. You don't need all of that. Don't need it. You just have to inflict what? Pain, trauma, the lone wolf, and be willing to accept that you may be part of the pain and trauma again as the threat is terminated, but hopefully law enforcement will be good enough. The pain and the trauma will be that quick. Snap a finger, threat done. Threat over. Yes, and we all know what that means. I don't have to say it. You know what that means. Once one that is a lone wolf accepts that, it's the end of the show. Self-dignity, self-worth, self-esteem, resilience is gone. It's over. The magnification of the ideology, the edict, the rhetoric. You've missed it. The fixation of identification has now happened. I'm expendable, but I shall get my point across. I shall make this happen. The development of extreme overvalued beliefs. Overvalued. It's ludicrously, insanely overvalued. Your beliefs, your think, I believe, feel, think, are outweighing the opinion of critical thinking. That idea becomes central to the identity, central to the resistance to contrary evidence against the lone wolf's ideology, against the lone wolf's edict or rhetoric. Yeah. Willing to get that rigidity closure. Shut it out. This includes obsessive focus on specific targets, guys. Focusing on something so hard. Take the Austin shooter. Why does one go to a place well, obviously it was a not hard target because the law enforcement were a few blocks down, but it was a soft target. Why something like that? I don't know. The religious aspect, property of Allah, God, something that would be a non-alcohol, non-frivolous lifestyle of, I don't know, self-lust, self-gratification, out there partying at specific hours, something that's against a ideology, rhetoric, edict, belief, think, feel. Yes, that's why. Now the rigidity is there. That is now the enemy. That's the central identity of the resistance. Regardless of how much contradictory evidence is out there, if it's a human being, you're in another society. Oh, guess what? Too bad. The trigger has been pulled cognitively, psychologically, sociologically, and manically. Now it's happening. The acquisition. Yeah. And the weapon acquisition. The fixation. The push. Identifying with previous attacker role models. Ones that have done it before. I'm not saying copycat either. Because you don't copycat direct. There's no way to copycat direct. I don't know why anybody would use that term. It's a copycat killer. It's a copycat criminal. Nothing's exactly the same. Copycat. I always hate. I had a federal investigator. We worked a while back, for those of you that are aware, with the Mid-South, the Lamar 78, the redhead, redhead murders, redhead females, all up and down, 78, all the way to Tupelo in Alabama. Had one, case. Federal investigator was, out there, came up from down south. Copycat. None of them are the same. None. Characteristic, MO, change of behavior. Nothing is copycat. Nothing. I don't care what you are. Behavioral analysis, profiler, nothing is copycat. Nothing. The enabler connection. Ooh, the copycat connection. Oh my gosh, the enabler. The one that gives the motivation for it. Hey, repeat after me. Even though I'm dead, historically, I was a lone wolf. Repeat after me. Copy me. Even lone wolves typically identify as an enabler. Yeah, enabling themselves, enabling those that are listening to them, enabling those in specific groups that they've adhered or been sucked in by. Yes, if the lone wolf hasn't even been the starter of the group. Why are there so many private servers, private chat, encrypted? Give me a break. Are you in one? Are you in that secret traumatic group to where you talk and express these feelings? Well, if you are, that's great. Make sure it's in a positive way, though. Make sure it's not in a way that's going to develop into one of these fixations of these two parallel scales that we've talked about. The practical assistance from the ideological groups. Those are validation for the lone wolf, especially if it's convincing enough. The online contact, the family member who's gone, the family member who shares a new online contact. Come with me. I can introduce you to people that are like you. Suffered the trauma, the dilapidation of self-resilience, self-worth, self-esteem. Will put you back on track. It happens every day. Happens every day. Those like, oh, I lost a boyfriend, girlfriend, lost that. And now you're out there and you're single, the life fandango, looking for that replacement. Yes, we've all heard it. Best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody. Yeah, we know what I'm talking about without saying. But there was that, adult warning content thing here. Yeah, all of it's out there. It's predominant in society. This is the connection. It often appears later in the radicalization process, but it takes a while to get there. It takes a while. Unless you're a good fixer of the radicalization belief. Somebody that has the smooth talk, somebody that has the attentive, charismatic nature, the charisma, the character, the attention getter, the narcissist, the playbook writer, the leader of the specific group, the ideology, the rhetoric, the edict, the one that makes it sound pleasurable and sucks in the one that has suffered the dilapidation or the critical incident or the trauma. Triggered events. Yeah, we'll close this out with the role of trauma in mental health. I think we've kind of gone, well, like I said, you know, on all these things that we do, we could go all night, and some people are like, holy crap, this guy's laying it out here. Yes. Yeah, everybody likes to sugarcoat it. Everybody likes to. Kind of like that FBI video. I ain't no sugarcoating that crap. That's garbage, man. You want a lot of people to die? Watch this. Watch that video. Watch that video. The role of trauma in mental health. We'll cover a few things on this. But as I said, comments are open. Leave them. We will delete, after I'm done here, I will go in and delete that first attempt. It's like a 5-minute where we were trying to get everything scheduled out, but I'll leave the actual live stream. We're not going to add anything to it or adjust it, but it'll be just a recorded video, you know, under the live stream, because we had to do a second, you know, live stream just to get everything going on YouTube, Rumble, and X. We did a kick last night. Surprisingly, the kick last night with the psychological profiling did really well within the first hour. Mental health, the topic, past experiences, all right, psychological states contribute to the vulnerability of the lone wolf. Yes, the vulnerability of the lone wolf actor, not society, the single actor, all right? While mental health doesn't always cause terrorism, it doesn't. It's mental. Something has to trigger it. Something has to push. Something has to be the belief and the behavior, the main point to action. Specifically, psychological factors and traumatic experience create conditions that make radicalization easy and more likely. Easy and more likely. Why? Convince. I will give you something that will take you out of the pain, the suffering, the torment that you're in. Think of your own life. What would you have given to not have to deal with a traumatic moment? A divorce, loss of family, loss of a loved one, loss of a job that caused the divorce, the loss of a family, loss of a loved one. Watching someone die in a hospital that was one of the above that we just talked about, I just said. What would you give to get rid of that? Have that suppressed in your mind and have more attentions of belief, patternization, ideology, rhetoric, edict, think, I believe. Now I have a new focus, a new transition point in my life to focus on and to push toward. Self-worth, self-resilience. Now I have a target, and lo and behold, I've got action. The world shall remember me. Not copycat either, but influence, the triggered event, the psychological push, the segment explorer, period. The segment explorer, segment of psychology. The explorer could be the lone wolf themselves, seeking the way to correct things through connection of mental trauma, mental health, and extreme turmoil, turbulence, and extreme violence to connect the dots. Psychological. PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, I know. This guy's about to beat the horse of PT. No, I'm not. No, I'm not going to do that. And don't think I'm going to sign it to specific members of society. All right. Research. This is an academic, scholarly channel. Okay. PhD, professor, other degree-having people, and some people that watch without. Big deal. Who cares? End of the day, it's paper, right? But the education and the cognitive ability and the willingness for all my researchers to get research out to you is critical, and it counts, all right? Research indicates that exposure to violence, example, severe abuse, domestic violence, growing up in a house of violence, linguistic, psychological, physical, develops into a pathway toward extremism. Yes, extremism. Yes. We did a past show about law enforcement. You have to have a mental illness of some sort to do the job of law enforcement and subject yourself to trauma every day. You're developing mental illness, self-mental illness with intent to carry out the job because you like the job. You like the thrill. You like the high speed. You like to see the trauma. You're developing your own trauma. Well, I can cope with it there, Dr. Mike. Sure you can. Now, wait till something happens that is that dislocative incident in your life outside of the norm. It's going to come. Trauma may lead to an individual to seek means through violent ideologies, act out against perceived threats, even though it's really not an intentional threat. Why does an active shooter go to a school and shoot up a school? Why? What is the threat of a school full of kindergartners? What's the threat of a middle school to a teenager with a weapon? There's no threat. Now we know it's psychological. How are we really looking at the actual cognitive values about everything I've talked about? And I'm not going through it all again. If you want to go through it all again, hit rewind. And we'll close this on conduct problems and antisocial traits. Yes, antisocial. Kind of like the Grinch. I hate you, I loathe you. Radicalization, the radicalized individual. It shows a high rate of childhood conduct problems and antisocial personality characteristics. Yes, I said it. Yes. Why? Nature versus nurture. Anybody know that person that was a wild child? No supervision, trouble, police, jail. Yeah. Easy. No push toward education. No push toward self-worth. No real mentorship. No family. No community. Easy targets, just like the mentally ill. Easy to manipulate, easy to sway. I think, I feel, belief, I believe versus an action. Or the combination of the both. Easily to manipulate. These traits do not cause extreme direct action, but directly create behavioral patterns that facilitate violent action and reduce empathy toward society or their victims. Yes, because they've seen the violence. They grew up in it. They grew up in the house of domestic violence to where a punch, a slap, a verbiage word of insult was the norm. It's easy. The conduct of the problem, the antisocial trait, and the acceptance that it's reality. Think Jack the Ripper, Whitechapel. Was Jack the Ripper's mother a prostitute that was killed, and Jack the Ripper watched the mother have sexual intercourse for money, and that was the definitive nature of love, then watched the mother get killed, then was put into a foster home, found by the Bobbies, the peelers on the street, adopted by a rich family, went to med school. Now Jack the Ripper knows how to disembowel from the vulva to the sternum and take out organs and still leave a female alive for the Bobbies or the peelers, or back then, 17th century, the police to find them with that few precious minutes of remaining life to where the victim is dying, disemboweled, organs out, but really can't enunciate or speak anything because of the pain and the trauma. Wow. Nobody puts that together, do they? So one would think that the lone wolf has to be a gunman in society now. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. So, as I said, I'll put out some more information about this here in the next few days. We'll put it up on the Facebook thing, the Facebook download. I said the Facebook thing. I haven't updated it. It's 64 days, so it's actually 65 days. I haven't looked at the actual download or the views, so whatever. But in 64 days, we have 684 as of yesterday, guys, ladies and gents, whatever you want me to say. So it was 684 yesterday, 11,000 plus yesterday. I'm sure it's gone up and things have changed, especially after last night's showing for the super fantastic venue of psychological profiling of a person. Everybody thinks the FBI is going to come in and take over the show. Wrong answer there again, too. God, that video was bad. Horrible. If you've seen that video, put your thoughts in the comments. That video was horrible, especially law enforcement. What do you think? Military guys, yes. Those actually that have had true deployment somewhere, anywhere in the world. What's your opinion on that? I think that it makes me want to taste yesterday's lunch, man. It's horrible. It's just the wrong direction. All right. Thanks for watching the show. This was a special edition. Everything that's actually got an SP in front of it, like right down here in the ticker, that's a special edition based on a request to me personally. It's not something that was sent out to the researchers. I'm not going to throw up any researchers' names or emails or addies or give them, attributable accreditation to this, because this was a special request just to me. So I can't cover everything, but I've covered enough all the way up to the point of society is missing the catch, telltale signals. It is what it is. There's a lot more to talk about. We could do 3, 4, 5 more episodes about this, because technically out of the segment, we're at segment 4. I've got 25 segments. Yes, we could do it all day long for stuff that I teach on a daily basis in different university classes, criminology, criminalistics, and criminal behavior. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us for this glorious, fantastic hour, even with the problems that we had with the first feed. I'll get with my IT people and try to make sure it doesn't happen again. But it was a cross feed. It wasn't the platform. It was a cross feed in audio for some weird reason. I should have just left it. It was kind of freaky and spooky, kind of like that Farsi thing that everybody's trying to figure out. Yeah. You ever thought that maybe it's just a old cryptic Farsi mixed with new Farsi or different dialects of Farsi, sending a signal out to talk to other people that understand that? Yeah, cryptic. Oh, yeah. A cipher in linguistic venue. Ooh, think about that. Frightening, a cipher in a language that you love, hate, or can't comprehend. Have a good night.